Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology and Beyond by Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN, Archetypal News Network. And today I'm going to bring you the astro weather for the last week of August and including the super full blue moon in Pisces. And we will be covering the retrogrades and some other aspects that are very, very big in the sky right now, because last week it was a lot to cover. So I decided to break it up a little bit. So please feel free to tell me in the comments how you felt last week, what has been going on for you. Lots of things, lots of changes, individuality, desires for freedom, finding oneself, one's true voice, all of that juicy stuff. And now let's see this week. I decided to kind of, oh, that's my Virgo. Because there's so much going on. Like these next 2 weeks is or this next week at least is that end of August that is very loaded. So what things are we obviously seeing this particular the next few days? So we have the sun entering Virgo tomorrow Wednesday, sorry, it's Thursday, yesterday Wednesday, yesterday Wednesday we had sun entering Virgo, so we still have a lot of the Virgo energy active this week on to next week. And this trine to Uranus and Mars, and kind of Mars Mercury in Virgo. So the energy of planning, executing, creating changes, creating new things on the earth, it's very active this week. Now, why I wanted to say something today is because Mercury is stationing to go retrograde. And as I'm speaking, it is already starting its retrograde motion. So with Mercury retrograde in the mix for the next 3 weeks, a lot of what we had planned, accomplished, created, all our strategies to create something in the world are going to be up for review. Everything's going to start maybe slowing down. And it is essential that we slow down the mind these days. So what happens when Mercury goes retrograde? And let's look. First of all, it's retrograding in Virgo. So it's going to be making all the way its retrograde back and through Virgo. So I wanted to really highlight again the energy of Virgo that is so big right now, especially because the sun entered Virgo as well. And this is when we roll up our sleeves and get ourselves really organized. The energy is so supportive of us getting healthy. That's one thing with Virgo. It's about health, improvement, maybe improvement of routines, improvement of your daily life, improvement of your health, improvement of something, a project that you've started, improvement of any area of life where you have Virgo. That area is being really pushed into looking for ways to improve. I am literally in heaven these days because I have so much Virgo in my chart that I feel so connected to the energy of organization right now. I just came out of a week where we we organized a big festival. A festival, let's say, here where I live, where it was actually a big party that required tons of organization and tons of detail-oriented things and knowing where things go. And it's interesting how it played out with my Virgo energy, because I was like literally making like spreadsheets to make sure everything would be taken care of and every task would be on point. And it's a very Virgo thing, is very task oriented. And I was in heaven with it because I like organizing and planning, and it's almost like a cold energy for me because it's so efficient, it's so everything just flows because everything's all in order. And the whole thing was well organized and well put together. And somehow the joy of it kind of wasn't much there. But for me, it was, because I was totally in my element, which is this organizational features. But when you're hosting a party, you're not necessarily participating in it too much. And it's interesting because with the energies of Leo and this Venus in Leo energies that are still kind of lingering there, I was actually emceeing the party, and I was just literally in my element as well. But it felt really archetypically on point how these energies are still very present. So of course, if you're a Virgo, please leave me a comment and let me know how you're experiencing these transits with so much Virgo energy present, especially with Mercury, who wants to put everything in its right place, its right box, and getting everything in order. It's great for that. So this is the Virgo archetype of service, of the harvest, of craftsmanship, and the evolution of it into the most perfect state it can have, represented by this dove, is this purifying function of Virgo. And when Mercury is retrograding through Virgo, we will be asked the question of the purifying function of our life. What is still a mess and needs purification or needs improvement? So if our thoughts are messy, our computers are messy, our lives are messy, our projects are messy, our relationships are messy, anything that still needs to be organized or reviewed, this is the time to do it. What happens and why we say don't sign contracts under Mercury retrograde, don't start new projects, and you hear that a lot. The reason is because at this moment in time, when that energy is present, it's the time to stop, to rethink what we have created. And if there's disorganization, in particularly because it's Virgo, we are looking at the structures and the efficiency of our lives, the efficiency, how our minds are working, and what things in our life can we truly improve by changing the way we think about them, and also by reorganizing our mind. I have a little plan for myself, which is to organize my computer, which equates to my mind almost, with so many files and photos, and it's a mess. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. Like, when, at least for me, there's too much mess, too much overload of information, little wheel, right? Tick, tick, tick. So at this moment in time, there is enough energy to retrospectively go and finish your projects, go and tie the loose ends, make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's, look at the details of things, polish whatever you had created and make it more polished. This is the time to perfect that rough draft that you started and start filling it in and polishing it. So everything that you started in the previous months, it's important to go back to. So at this time for 3 weeks, don't start new things. This is not time for starting new things. Also, get clear with your goals. Somebody told me something that was very valuable that I'm going to ask you to maybe consider as well. It's prioritizing, and right now with, again, the Aries North Node and who you are and what your priorities are. When Mercury is in Virgo and retrograded, it can also bring about the reprioritizing of life. What are true priorities for you, and are you doing it? So this is going to come up for you to see. So things that are not priority might actually get lost, get gone. That's when during Mercury retrograde, sometimes we lose things and things don't work out well, because if it's not priority, if it's blocked, like, let it go. Let's focus on what's priority. And with the Virgo energy, priorities are important, doing a priority list. So what my friend told me, actually, it's my beloved who told me this. He says, so are you really prioritizing, or are you scattering and, again, being all over the place and not being efficient? And he gave me the analogy of a jar. And how do we fill a jar with rocks? Big rocks, small rocks, pebbles, and sand. How would you get the whole jar completely full if you wanted to put these elements in a jar? And I'm like, well, obviously you put the big rocks first. Then you fill them the smaller rocks, the pebbles, and finally the sand. And that way your whole jar is full. So what this analogy gave me was, okay, what are the rocks? So my question to you is, what are your rocks? What are your priorities that you are really working towards, that are goals that are important to you in your personal expression of the alignment of your soul? And are you working towards those priorities, or are you still getting scattered and distracted with other things that are not as important? So this is a time to get back to those rocks, what's foundational to you, your path, your soul, and your unique expression, and get to work on those rocks. Really fulfill that commitment to yourself that you will do what it takes and it's required for you to start filling that jar, but first with the building blocks of who you are. Then you can prioritize your list and say, this is important to me. This is in my life, it's secondary. This is definitely people's desires for me. And you can leave that kind of last, just because that's the sand. That's kind of what will fill the jar at the end, is including other people, and other people's desires should be at this moment last. So that's one thing to consider during this time of reprioritizing yourself. So that's one thing with the Mercury retrograde. Now with Venus retrograde, what we have as well, Venus has been retrograde and will keep it's retrograding through Leo. And it's also bringing back to us what we truly value and what's no longer valuable to us, whether it is relationships or thoughts about money and abundance. All of those things that are Venusian, what gives us pleasure, we might be reviewing our relationships, reviewing our relationship to money, to people, and to things that we love and derive pleasure from. And if things are no longer in alignment with that, these things could also go. We can also let them go, which is what we have been experiencing through the Venus touching Uranus, need to break free from things that we no longer truly value. And now Venus is going to be touching, Venus is retrograde and will be touching Jupiter. So this is the big transit of this week as well, which I feel is kind of really important. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Let's see the Venus Jupiter square. So Venus Jupiter square. So we can see it here. It will be I don't know if I have Venus Jupiter square. So this next few days until the end of the week and into next week, we will be having this square. And I'm going to share with you a little story. So first, I'm going to show you what comes to mind when I feel Venus Jupiter in a difficult aspect. And let's remind ourselves that no aspect is bad. Let's just say that each aspect expresses an archetype in a certain way, and it brings us questions as why we do something and how we can maybe improve it or do something that is more beneficial to our path, our soul, or our society. So in this sense, I wanted to share what I typed on my Google when I think of Venus Jupiter, like a square of Venus Jupiter, is the word gaudy. And I typed this on Google. I was like, okay, what comes up when we say gaudy? Does that mean that is bad? Absolutely not. It just means it's an archetype. So the reason I'm bringing up these images is because sometimes under these kinds of transits, or if you have this natally, this tends to be a little bit the expression of that energy, which it could be excessive vanity, or excessive vanity, excessive pleasures, excessive goods, excessive need for attention as well. So when you have something gaudy, it just catches everybody's eyes. And the question to this is, how much substance is there in this expression? So of course you could have something super big and massive, and I'm just trying to see, well, let's go to this image, for instance. This is so extreme. Okay, this car, right? So I'm looking at this car, I'm like, okay, this is super gaudy, very showy. This is a very Venus in Leo squared Jupiter thing, if you ask me. That's what it looks like. It's a little bit extreme. It calls the attention. It's just flashy. It's in your face. Now, the question is, what is the substance between this big flashy thing? Why do we need to be seen as something so flashy? What could be more substantial that we're not seeing, that we truly value more? So during this transit, we might come up against certain things like superficiality in our lives, just to remind us of what is truly valuable. So there's a difference between needs and desires. And the needs is what your soul truly needs, and the desires is of the nature of Venus. I want this, I want that, and I want. With Jupiter, it expands, then you go get it, and then eventually you're like, did I really want this? And you end up getting a lot of stuff, or showing something that is not really real or true. Also, relationships could be like, are your friends truly your friends? Or are you more with somebody or people because of some kind of social advantage that you can get out of that? Or conversely, are people with you because just they're interested in what you have and not so much who you are? So all these things may be coming up for review, because as Venus retrogrades, we might review that. So the little story is like, again, my partner, he he tells me, I was speaking about Venus square Jupiter, and he tells me this interesting story because he's a natal Venus Jupiter, and he agreed for me to share the story with you. So he's natally Venus Jupiter person, and yesterday he went out to do groceries, and he got a craving for banana bread. And a banana bread, it's like, it's I don't know, I think it's gluten-free, or like a good pastry, let's say, something that's nourishing. It's a banana bread, gives you pleasure. So that's great. We want to connect to pleasure and joy with Venus, right? That's natural. And with Venus Jupiter, connecting to pleasure and enjoyment is key. That's part of the archetype. Now, where the square comes in is like connecting to pleasure and joy, no problem. He goes and he sees the banana bread. It's like, oh my gosh, it was like, I don't know, $4 for like a little piece. And that seems like, okay, that's a lot. So he decides like, you know what? I'm not going to buy this because whatever. Cool. Then he goes elsewhere, and he finds this place where they sell, I don't remember what he called them, this little fritter things that are purely basically baked sugar with, some glutinous with sugar and sugar coating, glazing, and fritters, like, yeah. And he's like, oh, wow, he got this craving now. So he sees that there's a little sale, like, for, I don't know, I don't remember the exact story, and forgive me. Some are for like, take 2 for so much money, or 8 of these for $8. So obviously he goes like, oh wow, okay, for $8 I can get all these many. So he buys them, and then he starts eating them one, and he's like, awareness, what am I eating? This is empty sugar, empty food that has no nutritional value. It's only for the pleasure of the senses, and this is me adding this, but that's exactly the awareness that is being brought. The moral of the story, and he decides instead, he said, well, maybe I could take it to somebody and give it away to someone. But he says, no, I would be giving crap to people, empty calories. That's because he's very self-aware. And then he ended up throwing it into garbage. So, moral of the story of a Venus square Jupiter. And by the way, if you have natally a placement, when a transit makes the same configuration as your natal placement, usually it activates it. So I found that quite interesting. This is a little bit more advanced astrology, but just so you know, so for him, because it activated his Venus square Jupiter, it's interesting that his Venus is in Taurus. So it also has to do with food, and it was very bang on. So I wanted to give you this example. So the moral of the story is, he had a craving. It's natural because Venus Jupiter wants to expand the desire for joy and enjoyment and pleasure, and that's totally natural. He went for the banana bread that was probably a healthy option for this. He declines the banana bread, goes to the fritters, and he declines it because it's $4, ends up buying fritters that are completely empty, no nutritional value, for $8, for double. Moral of the story, Jupiter expands, and we tend to want to overdo it. And the important part of knowing these transits is are they trying to tell us or ask us to do when it is a square? Is like, are you surrounded, or are you getting the pleasure or what you actually need out of a superficial need to fill up a void, or who knows? Why are you acquiring what you're acquiring? Why are you eating what you're eating? And why are you surrounding yourself with who you're surrounding yourselves with? And what is your relationship to money? Why do you want money for? Is it for something substantial or for something superficial? All these questions come into play through these transits, because the whole evolutionary point of these transits is to ask ourselves those questions. What is the true value of things? And also, how do I enjoy life? Know how others enjoy it. How do I truly enjoy it? It's very important through these transits to look at enjoyment. When Jupiter touches Venus, and again, it's amazing that these transits, even though they are considered difficult aspects or aspects in tension, through these transits of like Venus Jupiter are the best transits you can probably have, because these are like two benefics together. So it's not all that bad. That's why I'm saying you can have a gaudy palace, and well, there's nothing wrong with it, but in the end it could be like overspending and with no substance. It didn't provide any true value. It's just for the sake of something just being big and gaudy, and or eating an empty nutritional value thing that will just make you fat and ending up spending more money. So that kind of can be the aftermath of this big expansions, and especially because it's through the retrograde of Venus in Leo. It has to do also with what how we express ourselves and what's truly how we enjoy life, because Leo is connected to the heart, to enjoyment. So Venus in Leo is about truly enjoying life, creativity, expression. So if we're not enjoying, we might see again maybe a need to go and I'm just gonna go do something, but it's not something very enjoyable, but you end up wasting a lot of money in something you thought you enjoyed, whereas you could very much simply enjoy something like staying at home and I don't know, with a warm tea, and that could be it. You don't have to go and all out to realize that everything is just back home. Maybe that's an example. So this week, pay attention to that. The other thing I found very amazing with this synchronicity through this Venus square Jupiter is when I came home last night, one of our friends had put up a board where she had written how to align with abundance, and it was about she used to do like a millionaire mind seminars and things like that, and she just brought this, which is very on point with with the current energies of looking at money and value, and because Jupiter is in Taurus, so again it's expanding the sense of how we get our resources, and how what we get and what we need nourishes and fulfills our soul. and how it is very connected to abundance. This transit is fundamentally connected to abundance, but there's two components to abundance. There's abundance, and then there is waste. You see? And this is where it's important to see, are we being abundant or are we being wasteful? You know? So when she came up with this board, putting up like, what makes us really abundant? And then she wrote down, what are the blocks to this abundance? What are we how are we blocking ourselves from abundance? So I thought that was a very high vibrational expression of this archetype, is to come home to the question of, how am I truly connected to abundance of what I need and want and desire, and that fulfills my soul, right? That was the question that was being asked. So it was exactly the evolutionary question that is being asked. What is abundance for you, and how do you express yourself and get abundance through your self-expression? What is truly yours to give? And I've been diving also very, very deeply into vocational astrology, and I will be offering vocational astrology readings. And in case you don't know what that is, and I'm having them 50% off. If you want to know what are you supposed to be doing in this life, and you're not so sure, you don't know if you're connected to your natural energy in order to attract abundance, I will be giving these readings 50% off throughout the month of my birthday, which is September. So if you book a reading for vocational astrology with me, just the information is down below in the description. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this life and I'm lost. Well, this is a good time to get a little bit of a push if you're not sure, because it's important to connect to our natural gifts so life can give us back. And that is a little bit part of this, is, are we connected to our natural gifts and abilities and what truly gives us pleasure and joy, or not? And that's what can be coming up through these transits this week. Essentially, we are also having the energy of the earth energy still flowing very, very fluidly. Like we have Mars trining Pluto, and that gives enormous capacity to focus and persevere and move through blockages and just go. This is an energy of relentless force and not giving up. This is extremely focused energy. So take the focused energy you have right now also to finish up whatever you're finishing up. We are having so many retrogrades, and we have a new retrograde coming up at the end of the month, is Uranus retrograde. So we'll kind of have so many planets in retrograde. That's why if you see, we have Pluto retrograde, Saturn retrograde, then we'll have Uranus retrograding, Uranus retrograde, that's on the 23rd. Yeah, it's already started its retrograde. We have, well, Chiron retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, more retrogrades. Okay, so much retrograde energy. So let's go back to retrograde energy. The way I have come to understand retrogrades mostly is, we say that retrogrades are like the energy internalizes. So what does that even mean? For me, it means that because we create reality as an expression of our thoughts and our internal beingness. Our being creates reality by how we are. So when we have retrogrades and so much retrograde energy, my understanding is that we have the capacity to change the being before reality changes in front of our eyes and we have the experience of reality. We change our being. So through the opportunities of these retrogrades, we're able to review our thought processes, to review what we have created, to review the structures that we have created, to review how we want to present to the world, to review who we are. Like, and it's all more in the inside, it's internal. What happens when planets then go direct is everything that we've reviewed as a collective consciousness starts showing up in the world. And that's when we start seeing the new things come up, new systems, new ways of being, new, or whatever wants to exist in reality, we start experiencing it. This is why through the retrogrades, it's not so much about doing outside, more than it is changing inside, reviewing. For example, we can be, if we want to change a situation in our lives that we're not comfortable with, the review period doesn't just change. It usually goes through a mental process first, a mental emotional process. What am I doing? How could I do this different? What are the ideas? And this is when the magic also comes, when we have things like Mercury trining Uranus. And well, Uranus and Jupiter loosely. Why? Because this is like the brilliant mind, the brilliant idea, the aha moment, that's how it's going to be done. But that being said, those ideas then need to be actualized in reality with actions, right? With the action. And this is where Mars trining Pluto is really helpful, because all these ideas can eventually become these actions, and to each action and each little action we take will eventually create a reality. So it's interesting because it's not like we stop living and doing things. That's not what I'm saying. Is that as we keep living in the present moment and shifting our present moment, we have the opportunity to shift our mind around our thoughts and what we have around us. If we do not like it, this is the opportunity to start changing it and going, what am I not liking of my present moment, my existence, my situations, my relationships, my money, and what in me could I start tweaking and changing first in the thought. And this is why what my friend brought to the table yesterday with that board, she says we need to change our minds around abundance. It's not necessarily go and get a business coach right now or an abundance coach and I don't know, do more investments, because that's not necessarily going to be successful. Is how you change your mind around abundance that's going to then bring the right pathway to get to it. So you can try many things outside, but they won't work if the mindset hasn't changed. So this is that opportunity. This is why through the retrogrades, everything that we want to experience in life will have to first come through that internal process. And this requires observation. And if we're thinking ahead of what we don't have and not observing what we actually do, then we're not connected to that energy, because the energy of the retrograde, it's internal, but it's within the context of you now, not you in the future. It's not a future projection of you. It's an internal being of you right now. Do I feel abundant, for instance? Do I feel worthy? Do I feel connected to this particular person, job, thing? Do I feel? And then in the feeling is that we start shifting and changing. So now we're going to have at the end of the month this super blue moon in Pisces. And Super blue means that there is 2 full moons in one month. That's what a blue moon is. And we had earlier in the month another full moon. So this time around, this other super blue moon, full moon, it's going to bring up themes or show them or express them, bring them into light, which is what the full moon does. And what's interesting about this particular full moon in Pisces is that it is connected to Saturn. And through the opposition of the Sun to Saturn, it's that we have been going through this week, because the opposition of Sun Saturn starts occurring now. There could be feelings of contraction around the self, around precisely self-expression, who I truly am. And then reality starts presenting situations where my being, my expression can be contracted and feel like I can't be myself. I'm under the authority of somebody. Usually we tend to project it outside of ourselves, you know, because it could also be being hard on ourselves or too demanding, or it could just reignite the archetype of the patriarchal, the patriarchy, which is a dominant authority over you, over your being. Basically, I want to do this. No, you can't. You should do this. You know, that kind of energy. So I wanted to read you a little bit of the Sun, Moon, Saturn archetypal combination from the archetypal universe that you already all know that I love, by Ren Butler, who, by the way, if you're watching this on ANN, you know this was created by James Butler and Ren Butler and James Moran, and it's a wonderful channel. If you're watching this on Astrology and Beyond, go check their channel because they have amazing content as well. So that's that little moment of celebration for beings who are doing great work in the world, and Ren Butler is one of them. So thank you, Ren, for your contribution to humanity. Here it is. Sun, Moon, Saturn. So I'm going to read the whole archetype in both its healthy or like positive quality and its shadow quality. So on its positive quality, and this is what we would like to see if we can leverage these energies, is healthy self-control, integrity and responsibility, emotional grounding through hard work, active self-monitoring and self-observation. So this is the best that we could achieve through a transit where we might feel that that we need to work hard for what we want to see in the world, and we need to roll up our sleeves, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and it's not that easy, because the real world is the real world, and it has times, and it has and it's not about escaping into just Dreamlandia to make things happen. Dreamlandia is great, but you have to have Worklandia a little bit too. And if you can do it with a good, healthy sense of, why am I doing this? I'm doing this for myself. And to gain your own authority over your life, good for you. If not, this is what could happen. Unmet needs for human warmth, bonding, and acceptance. Emotional barriers to self-expression. A feeling of being at war with oneself. A tendency to feel responsible for parental conflicts. A feeling of being tightly controlled or shaped in childhood. Heavy duties and expectations at a young age. A sense of growing up too fast. Pressing demands from many directions. The feminine buried in a patriarchal family system, repressed trauma leading to feelings of constriction and inadequacy, conflict between one's needs for autonomy and belonging, character and body armor, hypervigilance, the urge to compensate for inner wounds with a sense of important purpose. So the reason I bring up also the shadow quality is because when there is that feeling of repression of self-expression, which is so important right now, the reason why these transits may come up as well to illuminate that in our lives, it's so that we can take responsibility for our own life. So it doesn't have to come from the outside, from a rigid, constrictive, like outside authority. If it comes from the inside, that means you are the one responsible for your life. And yes, it requires maturity and growing up in a certain sense. We have been seeing that the Saturn transiting through Pisces is about spiritual maturity. So if you can embody the best of this archetype, then you become responsible for your own emotions. You become responsible for your own path. You're not projecting upon others and pointing fingers or blaming outside yourself why something's happening to you. You become responsible for your own feelings, your emotions. You become responsible for how you show up in the world. And this transit might illuminate that. So if it so happens that through this transit, you are touched by it, and you feel like the world is against you and oppressing you, chances are you're not looking at how your parental influences created maybe your own desire to control others or situations. Maybe that could be that as well, as what is our need to control others instead of take responsibility. You see, these two words are similar and different. Taking responsibility and controlling are around the same idea, but taking responsibility is being in control of oneself, whereas controlling outside of yourself and making others responsible for whatever happens to you, that is the shadow. So these transits may bring that up, may unearth those feelings of, obligation and drudgery and, well, life is heavy, I have to be responsible, blah blah blah. So a way to avoid that feeling that comes from the outside is, what do you want to take responsibility for, and be proud of it. Be proud of your of you taking responsibility for something, for your own emotions, taking responsibility for your own spiritual practices. And what is great is, like, escapism we have seen in the past videos is not going to work through Saturn in Pisces. Yes, life can feel a little bit depressing, but then it's up to you to not make it depressing. It's up to you to take on a spiritual practice that helps you move through the heaviness of being here on this earth, where we're actually incarnated. And while we're here, let's make it work. So again, this energy can be very positive if we align with that idea that whatever we're going to be responsible for and what we create, it's going to be good for us in the long run. It's going to be a tool, an asset in our toolbox. So this is always opportunity. These are always opportunities for growth. Always opportunities for growth. And obviously this transit might be a little bit smoothened out because we have these positive aspects of Mercury to Uranus and Jupiter, where we might be having a lot of support of our of our mental states. Let's say we can have many great ideas and on how to actualize our life and make it work for everybody without having to, again, rely on others. I feel that this is not an energy necessarily of reliance on anybody. What's being invited right now is to rely on yourself as the creator of your existence. And it's very big, let's say. This invitation is, the energy is there to do that. Now, Mars moving in Libra, it's it's a little bit of a, I think in this sense, Mars is, it's in its fall in Libra. It doesn't like Libra because Mars wants what it wants right now, and it's not going to wait for anybody. In Libra, it has to take into account everybody else. So at a certain sense, we cannot just be taking this Aries energy and just plowing through what I want without the consideration of what is also good for the whole. So in this sense, whatever we want for ourselves, that is also positive for others, and that we also, what we do it with care and mindfulness for others, will bring us more rewards, definitely. So anything that you do for others. And the thing with Mars in Libras, we tend to want to harmonize situations. Not again, it's not a very powerful placement, because we might tend to not take much action for ourselves, but wait until everybody else has decided. So in this sense, it can feel like a little bit like a slow action Mars. And Mars has been going through an opposition to Neptune as well. So that can feel like a little bit of a loss of energy, and not, and it could also be a little bit of a burnt out energy and a need for restoration. So with this kind of Mars, again, the energy is not, it's not informing plow ahead. It's informing slow, steady progress towards a goals that you want to achieve, and maybe take it a little bit slower. Otherwise, yeah, this Mars gets a little bit dissolved by Neptune. is and the desire to go ahead and do your own thing or do something might be like, it's like swimming, you know. And Mars with Neptune is like, it's like swimming. So it's a little bit slower than when you're just running or flying, right? It's like swimming. So anything that you pursue that is spiritual in nature, and that it's for the highest and best of also everybody, will have a little bit also more support, and the alignment with your soul. So I think this is a good time to wrap these themes up a little bit, as this whole month is about that, you know, is and was about that. So everything that's happening in your life, review it with kindness, with care, with compassion, and with maturity, with sincerity. Be honest with yourselves. Be honest about your motivations. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And am I filling my jar with the big rocks first, or am I filling it with the sand first? And I would say, fill it with the rocks and don't forget the sand. That's what I'm going to leave you with for this last chunk of this week. This obviously applies to keep going, you know, into next month, but we will look at next month's astrology. And I am having a big desire to, as I revamp Astrology and Beyond, and to have a podcast that you will be also, if you're not watching these videos, but you're on the go, you can probably listen to what I have to say in the podcast, and invite also Jessica Phillips, who is my very dear friend, amazing intuitive reader, who came into the channel not long ago when we were talking about Saturn in Pisces. So I'm hoping to develop that further as part of my wish list into the new, and expand a little bit further. So I'll be doing my review process and revamp process throughout these 3 weeks, and hopefully at the end of that Mercury retrograde, I will have a better structure for all of you guys to keep in touch and to be able to give you more guidance. So feel free to like, share, subscribe to my channel and also to ANN, and share this video. Please, if you would like to contact me for a reading, my email is below. Right now I'm revamping the website, so I would say just contact me via email. And if you want a vocational astrology reading, then if you book it within September, you'll get it for 50% off, which is amazing. So that's that. And I love you, and I will see you in the next video.